let's learn some indispensable travel phrases that you really should know. And these are phrases that are some of my favorites that you can use if you're talking about a holiday you're getting ready to take or a holiday that you took in the past. And of course, if you would like to access the lesson notes that are right here, check out the link in the description. Join my email community. If you're already a part of it, check your inbox. I have sent them to you. So this is going to be a quiz lesson, and I would like you to participate. Write your answers in the chat. If you're watching this later, I want you to write your answers in the comments. This is, after all, interactive English. My name is Wes, and that's what it's all about, is trying to help you reach your fluency goals. So if that's what you'd like to do, please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Without further ado, here is your first question. To start out, I'm giving you part of the phrase, and I want you to complete it, but I'm also giving you the meaning down below. So in this case, the meaning is to leave a place or begin a journey. What phrase are you going to use that has that meaning? It is a little more casual, it's a little more informal, but one that I think you'll definitely use in conversation, or you're certainly going to come across it if somebody else is talking about travel and you want to say, okay, let's leave, let's get going, let's hit the road. So if you're going to hit the road, then it just means you're going to leave, you're going to begin a journey. You could use this when you're traveling, but even if you're on your way to work or something, you're like, okay, I'm going to hit the road and I'm going to get going and I'm going to leave. Excellent. Great job. I'll try to give some shout outs as we go through this. To give you an association with this phrase, there is a famous song by Ray Charles. It's called Hit the Road, Jack. In this case, Jack is just an informal, like, just for anybody. And I imagine some of you have heard it, that hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. I apologize for my singing, but go listen to the song. It's a great song, very well known. Ray Charles, Hit the Road, Jack. What do you think? Stop. It means I'm giving you the word stop because in the meaning, it refers to a stop as during a trip for fuel, food, or a rest, or just to use the restroom. So really any type of stop one might make specifically for those things, you are going to say, let's stop. And you can use the picture there as a little bit of a hint. And thank you, Lolly. Great voice. I appreciate it. I don't get that very often. So in this case, the stop that we're talking about, and the other thing that you may notice, I'm really going to try to give you more information with these phrases so that, again, it's all about building your vocabulary. Many of you said pit stop. Yes, that is the correct answer. We're often going to use that with the verb make, to make a pit stop. If you didn't use make, it's okay, but I wanted to give you that extra bit of information. So if you're traveling, you're in the car and you want to say, okay, I need to use the toilet. I think we need to make a pit stop. Or I'd like to get a snack. Can we make a pit stop? So you're going to use that verb with this phrase. Just to give you a little context, I feel like this image, I thought it was a little humorous. This is what a pit stop looks like. You stop the car, the family, the kids running out of the car, going into the store, buying some, whatever it is, or using the restroom, and it is a pit stop. So good phrase to know, especially if you are someone who likes taking road trips, because generally you're going to use this phrase when you're traveling by car. Excellent. Love those hearts. Keep them coming, guys. Here is the next one. Giving you the first word, which is not much of a hint, but the meaning is far away from any towns, cities, and just where few people live. And I don't want to give it away by saying too much, but that is the meaning, far away from any towns and cities and where few people live. You could say that you are in what? I think when talking about travel, this again is, of course, I think all of these phrases are commonly used. And the phrase that we're looking for, well done, Takayo, Miranda, we're talking about in the middle of nowhere. So if you say that maybe you got a hotel, you stayed at a hotel out on the lake and you were in the middle of nowhere. All right, you were out in nature, there was nothing around, you were in the middle of nowhere. So there are some other collocations with this phrase that I'm giving you down below. You might say you're talking about traveling somewhere, and maybe you say, we got lost in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing else around. Or maybe you describe where somebody lives and say, well, they live, I was visiting a friend who lives in the middle of nowhere. Or maybe you go somewhere, like I said, you stay at a hotel on the lake and you are staying in the middle of nowhere. Or you might find yourself in the middle of nowhere. So those are some common collocations with this phrase if you want to accurately describe someplace that's far away from any towns or cities and you are in the middle of nowhere. Here is the next question. I'm not giving you any part of this because I feel like this is one that maybe is a little easier, one that you'll probably be able to get. But I think it's commonly used, probably a phrase that you've heard of before. To make a journey without taking a lot of heavy things with you. In this situation, what is it that you're doing? So you're taking this journey, you're not bringing a lot of heavy things, and therefore you are doing what? And I think this is something that when we travel, I think many of us want to do this, but at least for me, it's very difficult to do because as I start this process of getting all of my things ready and I pick up my suitcase, I think, oh, okay, or my backpack, like, oh, I was not successful in this endeavor. So if you're not bringing a lot of heavy things, then you could say that you are going to travel light or to pack light. Either one of those works. They both have the same meaning, travel light, pack light. And like I said, I think it's something we all want to do. But I think you're capable of doing this, especially if it's a short trip. You go for a weekend somewhere and say, yeah, I'm going to just pack light or I'm going to travel light. To give you a little more context, there are some news headlines for you. I don't know if you can see them, but I'll read them to you. It says, travel light after 50. 7 stylish packing habit hacks for carefree adventures. The next one, travel light with these 34 carry-on. Travel light with Uber XXL. I didn't even know that is now a thing. Uber XXL. I guess it's a very large car that you could then, you could bring a bunch of bags, a lot of different suitcases, and you don't travel light. It's not a problem. So again, common phrases, and that is in part what it's all about. I want to give you vocabulary that you can actively use, which is why I said this is indispensable. And this is vocabulary that you really need to know. Here's the next one. The meaning is to lose or cause to lose meaning or effectiveness when translated into a different language, style, form, etc., when passed through or when passed through a third party. And I'm giving you one of the words in. But this is relevant because if you are traveling somewhere else, especially you go abroad, you're in a country in which the people speak a different language, you're trying to communicate, this is something that can happen from time to time. And I think we've all been in that situation. So what would you say when you lose the meaning or it causes this to happen or it changes it a little bit, it's not as effective due to it could be language translation or some other, you're trying to be funny and it just does not come out the same way. So in this case, the phrase that you can use, well done, fatty acid, Miranda, lost in translation. So again, this was more so when another language is involved, which in this case would mean that you're traveling abroad. You're in another country, another language, another culture, and this is something that can happen. Because I feel like English should be more entertaining as far as learning English, should be fun, even a little humorous. I've given you some examples down there of, well, these different signs that you could say, okay, something was lost in translation. Again, if you can't see it, I'll read it to you. The first one, it looks like it's a sign at the airport, but what it says in English, it says eating carpet is strictly prohibited. And of course, I think what they want to say is eating on the carpet or eating over the carpet is strictly prohibited instead of actually literally eating that carpet. But I don't know. That carpet, it looks kind of delicious to me. So maybe that's what they wanted to say. And then the other one is just a little bit of a meme. It says, if I were German, I would run, because the sign says Germany is now cold cut sausages. So it's something I guess you could be a little concerned about if you are German. So I think that you travel abroad, and of course I've seen this before when many signs are translated into English, whether you're talking about at an airport or especially at a restaurant, and things, yeah, they tend to get lost in translation. It is something that happens. And now you know the phrase to describe that situation. What do you think? On. Perhaps I'm giving you a little too much information and you'll be able to come up with the phrase. It just means to hurry. So if somebody is saying like, okay, we need to hurry, or you're just telling someone, look, hurry up, or you need to hurry, you could use this phrase instead. It is a synonym. But I think in this case, instead of saying hurry, when you're traveling, it's a phrase that I think you're more likely to come across because I think the really movement is involved. So instead of saying like to hurry, you could use this phrase instead. And what I'm referring to is the phrase, well done, Fabio, Safira. We're talking about the phrase to get a move on. Julia, Talal, nice. To get a move on means to hurry. So maybe we're traveling together and I tell you, look, we really need to get a move on. We need to hurry. Or maybe I'm just telling you or, giving somebody a command like, look, get a move on. All right, we need to hurry. And I thought this meme was funny. Let's get a move on. Because this picture of this kangaroo, maybe some of you have seen this before. I think there are many memes with this picture. This kangaroo looks very, very relaxed, very chill, and does not look like this kangaroo will be getting a move on anytime soon. So I want to switch it up a little bit. And now I'm going to give you a sentence. And I'm going to give you part of the phrase and see if you can just put it into context and come up with the missing travel phrase. We will get there faster if we take what? So what phrase could you use to complete this sentence? And this is definitely a travel phrase, a word that I think you should know. I think many of you know it already, and you could use the picture as a little bit of a hint. That is a clue that I'm giving you right there. So the phrase that we're talking about, and again, I'm giving you that verb because often you're going to use this with that verb, well done, Takaya, Lali, to take a shortcut. We will get there faster if we take a shortcut. I think anytime you're traveling, people are always on the lookout for a shortcut, a way to get to their destination faster, and you could just call that a shortcut, and often you're going to use that with the verb take. Let's take a shortcut. So it means a route that is more direct than the usual route, or a quicker way of doing something. In this case, we're talking about travel in this lesson, so it would really be that first part of a meaning like a more direct route. But if you're doing some activity, maybe you're putting something together, assembling it, and you, oh, well, I found a shortcut. And in that case, then it would be referring to a quicker way of doing something. Here are some examples talking about like a more direct way. I mentioned already, we will get there faster if we take a shortcut, or maybe you're telling somebody, look, you can take a shortcut across the field. Go this way, and yes, you'll be able to take a shortcut. What do you think? I have a in Denver on my way to LA. So in this case, we're talking about, well, I'll go ahead and tell you, we're talking about traveling by plane. I have a in Denver on my way to LA. You could probably infer that based on this, Denver on your way to LA. That right there is actually a picture of Denver International Airport, DIA. So your final destination is LA. But what do you think? I have a in Denver on my way to LA. There is you could use another phrase. I see a lot of people say like layover. Layover would work in this context. That is another word. You're talking about travel. That's actually not the one that I put in there, but it does work. If you have a layover in some place, you have this temporary period where you are going to relax. But there is another one that you could use. So let me go ahead and give it to you. In this case, I was just talking about a connecting flight. So if you want to use the phrase connecting flight, then you are stopping somewhere temporarily, in which case you have a layover, and then you are going on to LA. There are other ways that you can say this, and I'll put it down there. So if you said layover, that works. But a connecting flight is a flight, train, or something that leaves at a suitable time for you to take it to continue your journey after you have traveled on a previous flight or train. So really, you have a connection. A lot of times you could say a stopover as well. That also works. I see that in the chat. But to talk about two different ways to refer to this, I have a connecting flight in Denver on my way to LA, or I have to connect through Denver on my way to LA. So again, you could connect through a city on your way to another one, and that tells the person that you're going to stop, that you have a layover or you have a stopover, and then you're going to continue. Or you could use connecting flight. So again, all of those words and phrases are generally used to refer to the same thing. It just really depends on the way that you want to phrase it, as whether you have a layover or a stopover or a connecting flight, or you're going to connect through some city on your way to your final destination. What do you think in this one? In this case, there is just one response that I'm looking for. If someone were to say, I love to avoid crowds, therefore, I prefer to travel off. What phrase completes this? You can see this picture right there, this very, perhaps some secluded beach in the middle of nowhere, and there's not many people around, and that's why somebody says, look, I prefer to avoid crowds, therefore I prefer to travel off. So I guess you could include the word travel as part of this, because often, you're going to use it with that verb. And well done. Saw some great answers. Fatty acid, Takayao, Julia. We're talking about off the beaten path. So if you travel off the beaten path, in that case, I'll go ahead and give you the meaning. You're really going to a place that maybe is not known or popular with many people. I know that when I like to travel, if I have a choice between going to some very crowded, well-known city or going somewhere like a town that may be more off the beaten path, that's what I would choose to do. I would rather avoid the crowds, go see some place that maybe is not as well known, and therefore I could say, I like to travel off the beaten path or off the beaten track. Either one of those is okay. And what I wanted to point out here, this is a resource that if you watch these lessons, I definitely bring it up from time to time. If you're ever in a situation and you want to compare the usage of certain words or phrases, you could use either one, and you could use Ngram Viewer to put it on a graph. So I can put in off the beaten path, off the beaten track, and it basically shows you how commonly used they are in comparison to one another. In this case, it's really the same. And you could use either one, and they're used at about the same amount of frequency. You could say, I said I like to travel off the grid. Yeah, off the grid is another phrase that's very similar. The only thing I would say about off the grid, in that case, it makes me think it is somewhere that, yeah, very remote. I think of someplace that is really nobody else is around, and you are in the middle of nowhere in that case, and that's if you are off the grid. What do you think? Because of the traffic accident, we had to a slight And I'm giving you the word slight, even though it's not absolutely necessary to use as part of this phrase. However, I think that you may use this word if you're talking about this travel phrase. And you can see the road there. So this is one that pertains to driving for the most part. Not always. I think anytime you're trying to travel to a destination, you could use this phrase, but quite often I think you would use it in the context of driving and you're going somewhere by car. So because of the traffic accident, you're not going to go maybe the direct route. In that case, you're going to possibly take a slight detour, to take a detour or to take a slight detour. All right, Jago, welcome. All right, thanks for becoming a member, joining the team. I love it. So here is the meaning. If somebody takes a detour, a different or less direct route to a place that is used to avoid a problem, in this case, in the example, a traffic accident, or to visit somewhere or do something on the way. So if you're avoiding something, you're going to take a detour. But if you perhaps maybe go out of your way because you want to see this other place before you go on to your final destination, you could still use this phrase and be like, yeah, we wanted to visit this lake that is kind of out in the middle of nowhere because it's off the beaten path. So we took a little bit of a detour on our way to this major city that you are traveling to. And I'm just going to review and keep using these phrases because you can certainly use them multiple times if you're talking about traveling and visiting someplace. All right, love seeing these emojis. Thank you, guys. So this is a funny, again, I don't know if you could see it. These images are a little small, so I can give you some context and tell you what's on it. It's supposed to be funny because you can see on the orange sign, it says detour, and it's pointing in this direction, but just below it, it says it's a dead end. And it says no outlet. And it's like, wait a second, how is that a detour to go right into the dead end? Anyway, let's move on to the next one. We are making because of that shortcut. So I'm bringing up that word. We've talked about a shortcut already is a more direct route to get to your final destination. Who doesn't love taking a shortcut on their way to somewhere? So if you take a shortcut, I don't want to give it away. What is that doing to the time that it takes you to get there? Which is why I have the picture there of this hourglass, because I'm bringing that into the I'm giving you a little bit of a hint. So you take this shortcut. What does that do to the time? And maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the word time because it's kind of giving it away. So if you take a shortcut and you're just wanting to comment that, yeah, we're making good time because of that shortcut. This is a very common phrase when you're traveling somewhere and you want to basically say that you're ahead of schedule or you're just going to get there early, and perhaps you're happy about that. You say, oh yeah, we're making good time. Now, Here are some other examples because you're basically able to complete a trip quickly. I already gave you this example sentence. We're making good time, but because of that shortcut, you don't have to use the word good. You can use another adjective instead. We made great time. I think it only took us an hour and 15 minutes. So you can make good time, you can make great time, and it has a positive connotation because you're just getting somewhere faster. And who does not like to get to their destination quicker? I know I do, especially if I'm traveling by train. I just don't care for airline travel. I'd much rather take a road trip or go by train. What do you think? On our road trip, we took a little detour. All right, we've already talked about that phrase. We decided to route and drive up the coastline. On our road trip, we took a little detour. We decided to route, which is part of the expression that I want to highlight, and drive up the coastline. This is a picture of the California coastline. If you ever visit the state of California and you're taking a road trip, I highly recommend you don't have to take a detour, maybe it is, but you go up Highway 1 and go along the coastline. It's gorgeous, and you can see Big Sur, which is actually, this is where the picture is taken from. But in that case, if you are driving along a highway or you take any route that is very beautiful, it's lovely, and that's the reason you're taking it, you could say that you are taking the scenic route. And this is a phrase that's kind of fixed. Actually, we could take a scenic route as well. We could use the article if it fits in that. Like let's take a more scenic route. But you are often going to use it with the verb take. We're going to take the scenic route up the coastline and visit and see Big Sur. So I mentioned detour could be because of an accident, or it could be because you want to do it. So in this case, if you take a little detour because you want to take the scenic route, it works. Here is a funny shirt. I'll read it for you if you can't see it, but just the definition of a scenic route is a way that is not the fastest way, but that has beautiful scenery. And if you are not in a hurry and you're not looking to take shortcuts, then yeah, perhaps you would like to take the scenic route. I said if I'm driving, I feel a little more like I can take my time, and in that case, generally I don't mind taking the scenic route. This shirt says, I'm not lost, I'm just taking the scenic route. So if you're going somewhere and maybe somebody says, well, we're now lost in the middle of nowhere. You can say, look, we're not lost in the middle of nowhere. I just decided to take the scenic route. Look around. It's all this nature. It's very beautiful. And you're taking the scenic route. Here is a review of the travel phrases that I wanted to highlight. Again, these are ones that I like to use that I think are really relevant in conversation. If you're talking about a trip that you took or even one that you will take, you can use these phrases from time to time, whether you're flying, taking a car, train. It really depends on the way that you're going to travel, but these are ones that you can certainly use and you will hear if you're having a conversation about travel. If you enjoyed this lesson and you learned something new, whether you learned some of these phrases or even talked about those collocations, please, you can let me know by hitting that like button. And that's what it's all about, is just building your vocabulary, taking a topic that I think we can all relate to and adding to it a little bit at a time. So I really appreciate all of you joining me today. I hope that you found this lesson useful, and I will see you in the future with another